Hello and welcome to 30 Days to Learn Photoshop. This is Day 6, Introduction to Layers. I'm Ben Gribbin, and in today's lesson we are aiming to learn what layers are and also why they're used in Photoshop. So let's switch to Photoshop. And you can see we've got a graphic open, and we're going to discuss layers today. So what are layers? Well, you can do many things with one layer in Photoshop. However, the more and more you use Photoshop, you'll notice you start to need to use more layers. And you can think of layers effectively as if your Photoshop document was made up of sheets of paper. Each layer of paper adding its own detail. Also, some of the paper pieces can be cut out, can be different colours, and it builds up an image somewhat like a collage. And as with paper, the bits that are cut out you can actually see through to the sheets that are underneath. So you can literally think of them as sheets of paper that you can cut, paint, draw, shape, however you like. Now, the benefits of working with layers is it helps to organise a large Photoshop image, and also you can put pretty much anything you want to into a layer. It can be a whole photograph, or it could just be a 1 pixel line. So layers are an absolute must in Photoshop, and you are going to use them a lot, extensively. But why do you need to use layers? Why do you need an image to be so structured and organised in such a manner? Well, it means that a complex graphic can still be altered, tweaked and refined without having to change the whole image. We're going to show you what we mean by this now, because if you think of this as a painting, this is being made entirely in Photoshop, but if this was painted onto a canvas, that would be fine, it'd look okay. However, we wouldn't be able to as easily edit certain elements of the house, whereas with our layered up image here, we can change pretty much anything we want to. So we're going to show you that now. Let's say we've done this painting, it's taken us hours and hours and hours, and whoever's purchasing our painting says, oh, I wanted the house that you can see down here over on the right. That would be a problem if you were a painter, but using Photoshop layers, you can simply drag it over here. And you can resize it, you can reposition it, you can make it blurry, you can make it stand out more. All kinds of crazy cool things you can do with layers. So they are used to literally organise and split up complex images, and also to create these really detailed images. Let's have a look at how this image is actually created then, because it is literally just Photoshop layers. It's very simple Photoshop work is something like this. If we take it back to the very first layer, if we just do a mass invisibility on all of them, you can see we've got a sky layer, and we've actually named this layer, which is good practice. We've then got a light, which is the clouds, and we have some shadows on the clouds, and we've also got some highlights. Now all of these are in their own layers. Layers can be used to change the colour, so we could actually change the clouds to more grey in them. We could completely change the colour of the clouds if we wanted. We can add gradients to them. We can do all kinds of things using layers, so that's why they're so important. Then we went and added a sun. We created a hill using the pen tool. We added a foreground. We added some hill shading. We added some cloud highlights, some hillside shadow. Then the house, which we've just moved. The highlights again on the top of the hill. Stars. We can add stars if we wish. And here's something that we can do with Photoshop that you can certainly not do with an image. You can do mass color correction. You can tweak the levels and all kinds of things. So let's add in some more stars. But then if we press this layer here, we can turn it to nighttime. Just like that. From that to that in about 3 seconds. So those are why we use layers. They are the way of building up complex graphics that are completely editable and tweakable and changeable. Let's take a look at another example. We bought this photograph from photojune.net, and it's a picture of a little toy car. And what we did was we used the lasso tool, as we've talked about in the toolbar walkthrough, to just very quickly draw around this image, and we included the reflection as well. Selected that image, and then we were able to do this. Copy it 4 times, resize it, we can change the colours, And then also, all of these cars are on their very own layer. So for example, this car at the bottom's actually got some layers applied over the wheels to make the wheels stand out more than this car has. We've also changed the colour, obviously. But we can literally drag these cars around, move them around. We didn't do a very good job of cutting out the car, but if we would spend more time, we could cut the car right down to its exact shape. We could actually overlay the cars. For example, if we were to do something like that, if this car didn't have this white border here, we could stack the cars up. We can do all kinds of things, duplication, editing images, all from just this very simple graphic. So let's go back to our landscape picture. This is how a layers panel will look in the sidebar panel when you start to get more layers in. You get a scroll bar on the right, and you're able to flick through all these different layers. Now, to select a layer, to edit it, all you need to do is just click on it, and that then chooses that layer. So that's something that you will need to remember. So what have we learned in today's lesson? Well, we looked at what layers are and why they're used. And your task for the lesson is to find a picture on the internet, and I want you to imagine how it would be made up of layers. So rather than doing it, just imagine how would you break that image up into layers. You would need to start with a background and work from there, somewhat similar to a painting. So break things down into layers, and it's going to help you just in your mind get the whole concepts of layering things up for use later in Photoshop. Next time on 30 Days to Learn Photoshop, we're going to cover working with layers. Thanks for listening.